Namaskar. Hello friends. We have been talking about my thoughts on retirement. We will continue with that today. 4 phases of human life. In accordance with Indian scriptures, the aim of human life is to fulfill 4 purusharthas, which are dharma, artha, kama and moksha. The fulfillment of these 4 purusharthas correspond respectively to the following 4 phases in one's life. The approximate period and duration of each is tuned a little bit to suit today's times. First is Brahmacharyaashram. This is the first phase of human life, which is meant for the fulfillment of dharma purushartha, that starts from about 7 years of age and continues up to say 25 years of age. During this phase, one is supposed to acquire knowledge and skills that will equip one to live one's subsequent life in a dharmic way, earning one's living in an honest way and acting in a responsible and cooperative manner within the family, community, world at large, of which he is a part. Second is Brahmacharyaashram. Second is Gruhasthaashram. This is the second phase that aims at fulfilling the second and third purusharthas, namely artha and kama. It begins when we stand up on our own feet, say around 25 years of age, and goes on up to about 60 years of age. During this phase, we are expected to earn our living in a righteous manner, raise and support our family, contribute to the peaceful coexistence of the community as a whole, as also to help the less privileged sections of the society that need help. This phase primarily consists of activities that are aimed at satisfying our bodily and egoistic desires, as also to discharge our duties as a member of our family and community. Third is Vaanaprasthaashram. This is the third phase that prepares one for the fulfillment of the last and the most important of the purusharthas, namely moksha. It begins when we have reasonably satisfied our bodily and egoistic desires, discharged our family and community responsibilities, and made reasonable financial provisions for our old age, and when our next generation is ready to be on their own and to take over from us. This may come about at some point between 45 and 60 years of age, depending upon individual circumstances. This phase is primarily of preparatory nature and consists of a transition from worldly way of life to one of retirement. During this phase, we should gradually hand over all our responsibilities to our next generation and prepare for a separate, independent, and purely personal way of living the rest of our life. This phase should therefore be of a relatively short duration, not exceeding about 5 years. Finally, Sanyaasaashram. This is the last phase during which we should aim to achieve the last, but not the least of the purusharthas, namely attainment of moksha. Let me clarify here the meaning of moksha as I take it to mean. It means liberation from the attachment to our physical body, our material belongings, our loved ones, as also our ego. It means going beyond the world of objects as perceived by our 5 senses and getting the knowledge of who we truly are and what is the bigger purpose behind this creation. This phase of Sanyaasaashram should begin as soon as we think that we are at the end of Vaanaprasthaashram. This phase essentially is the complete true retirement. The meaning of retirement in this backdrop should be what is expressed by the Sanskrit word nivrutti, which means turning away from worldly thoughts, desires, actions, and engaging in spiritual pursuits. In the context of today's times, sannyas may not mean going to Himalayas or to a forest, but rather taking a mental sannyas, even while remaining in the worldly surroundings. It should be akin to being like a lotus that is in the water but remains above it and does not get wet. It can thus be seen that retirement is essential if we want to fulfill the most important aim of human life. Next question is when to retire. The time of retirement is an important decision that one has to take. Here, by retirement, I mean true retirement. That is, moving away from the physical world of objects, and not just a formal retirement from the organization you are working for or the professional field that you have been working in. It is a typically very personal decision depending on the individual situation. In this connection, some important guiding principles could be as follows. 1. Do not fall for the argument that you should keep leading the normal life as long as you can, and that retirement can be postponed to the time when you are really old and physically weak. This thinking is of those people who are totally in love with this physical world and its attractions. They look at retirement as something unwanted that one is forced to accept only when it can't be avoided anymore. They are the ones who do not recognize the importance of the last Purushartha, namely seeking moksha. Second, some people believe that spirituality is for that time in one's life when one is unable to engage in the normal physical activity and is lying in the bed. This again is an erroneous belief. Striving for moksha is not an easy task that can be managed in a short time period towards the end of one's life. Also, one cannot focus on spiritual contemplation and activity when his body is weak and in discomfort. Pursuit of moksha takes time and mental focus. Hence, it should not be postponed to as late a stage as possible. Rather, the earlier you start, the better your chances of achieving moksha. Don't forget, according to Indian spiritual concepts, it may take many a lifetime for one to attain moksha. So put in as much effort during this lifetime as you can. Thirdly, a common belief is that one should make sure that he will be able to maintain the same standard of living even after retirement. This, I think, is erroneous. In fact, we should aim for living a much simpler life after retirement. For example, it is not necessary to dine out every week after you retire. It is not necessary to spend a lot of money on buying fine clothing. Simple and clean attire is good enough. It is not necessary to seek frivolous entertainment like attending music concerts and watching movies or dramas or even TV programs. A simple life will require much less financial resources than what you have been used to earning during your working career. That way you will be able to retire earlier than what many people think as appropriate. Fourthly, it is not necessary that one must do this, that and other before one can retire. It is anyway not possible to experience everything in our life in one lifetime. Everything that this big and varied creation is capable of offering cannot be experienced and enjoyed in one lifetime. For example, even though I may have been a successful top executive in a company, I haven't been the Prime Minister of India yet. Does it mean I should get into politics after I retire, in the hope that someday I will have a chance to be the Prime Minister of India? At least I don't believe so. I would say draw a line at a reasonable stage in your life when you have adequately sampled life and discharged your reasonable duties to the best of your ability. This should be sooner than later. Especially, one needs to be careful while defining what one's reasonable duties should be. For example, it's not necessary to think that it is one's duty to provide for a separate house for each of one's male children. One's reasonable duty in respect of one's children should stop at giving proper education and making suitable opportunities available to one's children to the best of one's ability and capacity. Remember, nobody is indispensable. Your wife and children can manage even without you. After all, life is like a river. It will go on regardless of whatever happens on its way. So don't keep postponing your retirement because you think your wife and children still need you. Be sensible and draw a line at the earliest rather than later. At the end of your life, you may have to repent that you missed out on the last Purushartha because you thought your family needed your help. But for all you know, your family may turn around and say that they did not ask for your help and that they could have managed without your help. Having lived your own life through your childhood, youth and middle age, with yourself at the center of everything, is good enough. Do not repeat the same cycle any more than may be absolutely necessary, with your children at the center now, and then again with your grandchildren at the center later. In other words, do not get involved in the career and life and happiness of your children first, and then of your grandchildren too. Leave them to their destiny, at least after you have done your bit of educating your children and helping them stand on their own feet. Otherwise, you will remain deeply involved in this world. I will stop here and continue the next time. Till then, bye, take care.